Hello, welcome to the SCP podcast, that is Society for Consulting Psychology. Today we are in the education domain podcast, and we have our special guests that run the peer consultation series. But first, I want to introduce my podcast host, Ann Hamilton.
Hello, Joanie. Thank you for having me, and we're excited to talk with our participants today.
Okay, so our special guests are our esteemed hosts of the SCP Peer Consultation Series, Vicki Vandaveer and Len Wysocki. So welcome the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And before we start, I just wanted to tell everyone why we're doing this podcast. And I'm just really excited about it because one of the reasons people join SCP is because it is a smaller, more intimate society than some of the others available to IO and OD consultants and psychologically trained coaches. And one of our offerings is pretty unique. And this is why we're highlighting it today. And we're going to talk a little bit about how SCP members can participate and even lead a series of the peer consultation. So let's start out by asking our guests, what is the purpose of a peer consultation series?
Well, I'll go first. The purpose is to strengthen expertise in consulting psychology practice. So that's simply it, and it goes from there, consulting or coaching, both.
Right.
Len, you want to add?
I would just add very simply that the opportunity is no judgment and a lot of honest reactions to what's being offered. How is something being done? What's your general reaction to this? And it's all with no judgment and the opportunity to learn.
Boy, I like that, the opportunity to learn. So, kind of Len, going on that, that's one benefit. Are there some other benefits that members would get by joining this consultation series?
Well, there's a benefit of new colleagues really coming together in an intimate format. I mean, sharing our most difficult cases, sharing our vulnerabilities in doing the important work that we're doing. You get really close with each other, and probably for life. Maybe like people in the military who are in the foxhole together, your brothers, your sisters for life.
That's exactly right. You really exchange your thoughts and your misdeeds and your frustrations on how you pursue a particular issue, and you get candid feedback from your peers, and that's really important. It's missing in a lot of our fields.
Well, how does it work? I mean, this is really interesting to hear, you're getting all these benefits. So what makes it different? How are you having this intimate, great feedback? Why is it different from other offerings?
When we started this in 2019, we started it out, and it's kind of continued that everyone in the group presents a case, their own case, or it could be another one, but one that is pretty meaty that they want other perspectives on. So I usually go first with my most difficult case. That's very, very sensitive, actually. And I got input from diverse areas of psychology that was hugely helpful. And I wanted to set the bar. Pretty low or high for how sensitive the case could be, because it's very safe there. I mean, we all commit to and agree to absolute confidentiality, so you can show your vulnerability, you can show where you were not smart, just and it's amazing the support that people give their perspectives on. I've not had anybody be anything but completely supportive of the person and asking the kind of questions that really get everybody to thinking, and there's real good dialogue around the case.
Yeah, the thing that really struck me was the honesty and the vulnerability that people came with, which kind of speaks to the need for confidentiality about what the process is. We can't didact all the information that we send out prior to the case. So the understanding is that it gets held very confidentially, and that people can change their perspective in the process of how they deliver the consultation.
Hmm.
We get into professional ethics as well. My own case had that, where I was like over committed to professional ethics to such an extent that I compartmentalized and should not have. And so the clinicians in the group knew what I could have done pretty easily to not have the ambiguity around or the felt conflict with ethics. So that in itself earns the CE credits, because we do cover that.
That's very true.
Yeah.
The clinicians, I mean, because we have a diverse group of people coming to kind of critique each case, you get different perspectives, and where you get blindsided, as Vicki mentioned, can be reacted to in an honest, safe way by other people in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not bringing your best A+ case. You're bringing a case that you really would like alternate perspectives, and so for next time.
Yeah.
Excellent. That is very distinct from our other offerings. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the vulnerability aspect and how it's coming. I do want to touch on, a little bit who should be doing this, but I kind of want to learn more a little bit about, right, the vulnerability and trying to get these different viewpoints, as it would be, by the diverse audience that participates. Do you have any kind of script that you follow? Do you talk with the participants maybe in advance of them presenting their case to things that they want to talk about it, or is it more kind of organic and free-flowing conversations as you're going through the sessions?
Yeah, it's organic and free-flowing. We do ask people to submit their case materials and make them completely anonymous with regard to the client organization and the individuals. So all reference to name of company and name of person, and disguise it in every way to make sure. So they distribute their materials ahead of time. We ask for 2 weeks, but even if it's a week, that's helpful. And then people say what the few things are they particularly would like perspectives on.
Okay.
But as the dialogue happens, then they see we see other things. Oh, okay, I had a blind spot there. It didn't occur to me to look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it, to the extent that we can didact some of the information. Sometimes it's psychometric instruments, sometimes it's background information, sometimes both, and we only know what we know. So we depend on the other people to kind of give honest feedback, to say, well, that's interesting. Have you considered so-and-so? Have you considered this approach? And that's helpful.
And it's really interesting to see, like, the IO people. If I think of where I've been most helpful, it's been to a clinician, clinically trained person who wasn't thinking of the context in which their coachee was embedded and needed to respond. I mean, a lot of their behavior came from response to that environment. And so then you get into, well, they weren't going to pay me enough to do an assessment of that. You got to get it anyway. You got to get it some kind of way. And so we talk about that and how you do that.
Yes.
Well, it sounds like some of the things that you said are really key to making it work, are having the right case, that the people are willing to bring and share and sort of open the kimono, I guess you might say, and also having the right tone for people being supportive and giving feedback, and having it being a learning environment. What else makes it work? I mean, from a participant's point of view, what would somebody need to know before going in?
In this particular case, my experience has been the safety of the environment, the honesty of the environment and the fact that we're all here to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
No one's an expert. Everybody's a different piece of the puzzle.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. What about level of commitment? I guess that was sort of where I was going, thinking about that. I mean, how many? It's usually about 6 sessions, I think. And what do you do for that?
Well, that's where the kind of structure of the course comes in that I amended and that Vicki had sent to me for what we send out at the very beginning of the session. It talks about the extent to which we would have each person commit to it both the time, which is why we're flexible after the first session, when the sessions would be, what we would be presenting at a particular time, and what that particular case would entail. It's really up to them, up to the participant, but they would have something substantive where they would be presenting for the course of the actual time.
So we try to match people with dates. So everybody commits. There'll be 6 sessions, and this is who's presenting. And people can switch. I mean, if things come up and they see they're not going to be able to make that date, then they ask somebody else, "Will you switch with me?" And usually that works. And if it doesn't work, having a small group like that, we can find another date. If we meet on a Monday and Tuesday, maybe for 1 month we've got to meet on Thursday. But as long as everybody can find the time to meet, we do.
Right.
So it sounds like, right, you're making the commitment to make the case, and then also the commitment to listen to 5 other cases, as it would be, and make on that. And because it's a small environment, you're able to, to make those concessions if you have to make switches.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it sounds like a commitment, both presenting and giving feedback.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right, Ann. And it's kind of psychology 101, I guess, that all of us, when we are vulnerable and we're committed to each other. I mean, when somebody lays open their vulnerability, in what we all do, people come to support that person.
That's
and
right.
Then you do that the next month, and then you do that the next time, and the group gets really cohesive. And we've never had anybody say anything that wasn't totally supportive of the person. It's I guess when you're vulnerable, that's what it attracts from your colleagues is support.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's been helpful to us is that we set the stage for an experienced group of people who are looking to project and grow beyond where they are, but they come with a certain amount of experience to the. It's not a beginners group; it's an intermediate to advanced group. So all of us are at a position in our career where we welcome, constructive criticism.
We have had some more junior people in some of the earlier courses. They wanted to come.
Right.
There was only one that was so junior that she was intimidated.
Yeah.
May have remembered that.
I do remember that.
I think she got a little better as the time went on. But if they're like mid-career, they don't have to be advanced. But if they're at least mid-career,
Right.
One of the very best ones we had was mid-career. He's super bright. And he just really was an active participant, very good insights, hugely knowledgeable. And we had one person who's older than I am, who asked me if he should participate because he's really mostly retired, but he thought this looked interesting. And I said, well, why don't you just come and see? And if you don't, he says, I don't need CE credits. So he came. This was 3 sessions back or something. Anyway, he came. And oh my God, he was a gold mine of perspectives from experience and questions. And he was humble, and he was a great listener, and he would help facilitate somebody's thinking because he would see what they had. Well, he gave it great reviews, and he was just a delight. I
Yeah.
learned a lot from him.
I did as well, and it was a real joy
Yeah.
to have that interjection of experience brought in when it was so well needed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you were talking about mid-career and later, and we have other offerings for early career too. Anne, did you want to say a word about that?
Sure, thanks. We do. We're actually starting now. If you're listening to this soon, we do have a session that is starting this month for early people early in their career. That is the Livingston series, and that's actually one of our free offerings. Again, a similar kind of components where it's peer-based. People will present cases, but it's more geared toward people that have just recently acquired a PhD and they're just starting out in the field, and it's a bit more guidance from the host, but it's, again, same concept of the peer consultation. And then we have some transitioning groups as well. So, just a couple different offerings. But again, this one is unique because it's geared towards those of us in, mid and advanced careers.
Well, I want to turn the direction of our conversation a little bit to being a host, because we talked a lot about what it's like to be a participant, but we also draw from our membership to bring in hosts for this offering. And so, Vicki and Len, can you say a few words about what that's like, what it might be like for someone new coming in who wants to host one?
Sure. I think first is to go through it. And anybody who goes through it for, one full session, one full thing, would be able to host. I mean, they're already mid to senior career, late career people. And, we're not, we're all peers. All of us are peers. So just how to like get it going and how to derail it if it goes off, but it hardly ever does. Or if it does, it's intentional and people are animated around it.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that everyone who would do this would go off and start their own peer consultation groups, and it would sprout. But I guess consulting psychologists are so busy that maybe that's why they don't have time. I don't know.
Yeah, it's in the spirit of giving back, and to second what Vicki has said, I had gone through one full iteration of this, and I was approached by Vicki as well. Why not join me in doing these things? And that was 2 or 3 sessions ago, and I felt that wow, this makes so much sense. I could stay active, and I could give back, and I could take. And having gone through it once, there was a sense that I knew what I was talking about. So I think that's very important, having gone through one session.
Yeah, I like that. But also, we've been talking about, so it's Vicki and Len, and you are co-hosts, as it would be. What are some benefits of that, and what do you like about that format of this series?
I like being a participant. So, the co-hosts, I mean, we're all learners, and I learn something from every group we have, every case we have. There's probably no end to learning.
Yeah, and the upside of that is that if for some reason one of the hosts can't make it, the group can stand alone. It could actually go forward with the topic. And that being in a co-host situation, it takes some of the pressure off of one individual where the group is self-sustainable.
Excellent. So it sounds like somebody would want to participate and then maybe even with the intention of hosting one. And they can get in touch with us to do that, to inquire about how to go about doing that. And we have a nice way of sort of bringing somebody in, participating, running. They're not just thrown to the wolves. Not that there are any wolves in these series, but just we have some shadowing going on. Like you continue to co-host a little bit, and then somebody will go on to lead. But you always have the backup. So let's wrap up by having Anne help us guide us through what's coming up next.
Sure. So for this series, we just finished our last one. We will be beginning a new series, and that will be starting on January 16th, and we will be meeting at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then, as we've been talking about, there is flexibility, with kind of determining the schedule, and that's something that we all talk about in the first session is when we're going to be doing the meetings. But typically, they last 6 months. We meet every month, present the case, and to sign up is really easy. There'll be a registration link online on the website, and you can just go in and fill out the form. And again, this next session will be running for the 6 months, beginning in January. And we're playing with hopefully having more expanding offerings and maybe doing some shorter sessions. But for, if you are watching this later on, I encourage you to go to the website and get some more information. Otherwise, our next one is beginning January 16th at 6 p.m. And we hope to have that link up by the end of this month, so the end of November.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Len and Vicki, for joining us today and sharing the wealth with our members.
Thank you, Joanie. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah.
This has been great.
And thanks to all our viewers and listeners here at the SCP podcast.